Alrighty, this is the John Deere that I took all the cover off up here. This is actually they tell me that Kawasaki made these motors. Someone also said that Kohler made these motors. I don't know, maybe they're the same. But this is an FB 460B full pressure lubrication cast iron cylinder liner engine. I don't even know how many horsepower this thing is, but it's on this 83 John Deere 165 hydro. It wasn't running well. In fact, it got to where it ran worse and worse and worse, and then finally where it didn't run at all. And I've taken the cover off. There's a bolt here, and a bolt there, and a bolt over there, and a bolt over there, and a bolt over there. And I also had to take a little cover here. Probably didn't have to take it off, but I did. There's a grill that sits on top of this, and that grill here fits over this. So this has to come off. These screws, these are Phillips head screws here, and I had to use a hammer drill, which if you don't know what a hammer drill is, it's basically this thing. This is a hammer drill here, and it's got a, you can change the drill bits in it, and when you hit it, this turns. You hit it with a hammer to break those loose. I have a new coil here and the old coil, and one of the things I noticed about this immediately, by the way, I took the oil spout off and I loosened this fuel pump over here and set it aside, and set my carburetor off to the side. One of the first things I noticed is that this flywheel is rusty. Now, every one of these that you see on here, this area right here, it's like a magnet. In fact, maybe I could stick something to it so you could see. Yeah, there you go. See how that wrench stuck to it? Well, that's because that's magnetic. And this particular one is all rusty, as is, I don't know if there's one over here actually or not. There may just be one over there. It's a one-cylinder motor, so it's probably just one. That's what activates the spark. When it's rusty like that, it's not the best thing. And what we used to do a lot of times when we take these apart, we just clean that part real good, clean the rust off of it and everything. On the old style ones, there was a set of points under here. Now I looked up this one, and it said if there was a wire from here that ran up under the flywheel, then there were points in there. And there is a set of wires that run up in there. Now this new set of, this new coil here, I believe is not supposed to have points in it. And it goes on like that. Now what I'm going to do before I put that on and while I have this off is I'm going to put a spark plug in the spark plug wire and probably clamp it to the motor and spin it over and just see what kind of fire I can see coming out of it. And then I'll clean this and I'll do it again, and then I'll take this off, put the new one on there, and I'll do it again. One of the things about the John Deere is this wire isn't really long enough, and this used to have a spark plug wire on it with an insulator, but the head pulled off of it, the insulator pulled off of it. I had that laying around out here somewhere so I could show you, but that wire is a real wire, meaning it doesn't have graphite inside of it. And the other wire that I have, it is a graphite wire. Now there's a difference between a wire with wire in it and a wire with graphite in it. And I have tied the two together. Actually, I did that on this mower, but I don't think that makes a very good connection. I'll show you, so you can see a little piece of wire on that one. So I'm going to cut the camera off. I'm going to put a spark plug to this, clamp it up here. We'll spin it over a few times and see what kind of fire we see. Okay, I haven't done anything to it so far except put the wire on here and clamp it to a ground. So let's just see if we see any spark. I did disconnect the fuel line before the fuel pump over there, and it's sitting higher than the tank, so it's not leaking. I did see a tiny little spark on this plug, not much. Oh, there it is. I see a spark. Let's do that again. Try that again. I got some spark. Not a lot. So I'm going to clean up that section I was telling you about. Now, there's no spark plug in this, so when I'm turning it this way, I'm not putting a lot of pressure on these fins. You can break these fins off on some mowers. This looks like it's cast iron, but they'll still break even if they're cast iron. Some of the newer ones will be aluminum. See, that's pretty rusty right there. Give me a piece of sandpaper, we'll sand that up, make it nice and clean, then we'll look at the spark again. Okay, I just sanded that here, and we'll just see if it changed the way the spark sparks. It looks iffy. Sometimes it sparks a little, sometimes it don't. I'm going to sand that spark plug a little too. I just sanded that spark plug a little bit. It looks to me like it's sparking sometimes and sometimes it's not. I'm gonna change this. Pretty good spark now, much better than before. It's funny how it sparks and then quits and then sparks and then quits. Maybe it's made to do that way. That's not real tight. I don't love that either. Okay, so I decided to pop the flywheel off of this. I tried cranking it after I started getting a little better fire, but it really didn't hit a lick. So I'm really curious about whether this has points or not. I was told that if it has a wire that runs up underneath there, up into here, it does have points. And some of these coils has electronic ignition built into them, but this one looks just like the one I took off of it, and it may not be one of those. So the really best way I know of is to have a look under here and see if it has points, and if so, I will address that appropriately. This is not a reverse thread. Now, I looked online, it said it would be a reverse thread. In this case, it wasn't. And I popped this off with, I've got an old electric Makita hammer. What do you call that? A wrench, a torque wrench? I don't know what you call it, this thing. I use it for mounting tires and stuff like that. And man, that thing just makes a racket, but it popped that nut right off of there, no problem. So they call that an impact wrench. Anyway, that did the trick as far as getting that nut off. So I'm going to get my puller out. There's 3 places there where your puller bolts go in, and we'll get a puller out of my collection over here, and we'll go at that. I'm lucky enough to have a pretty good puller set up here. Now this one looks like it's got 1, 2, 3 of those and only 2 of these. I wonder if these are short enough to attach that puller on here. I'm going to need 3. part. Works pretty good if you got the tool. No sir, that does not have a set of points, but it does have this inside, and these are all magnets too. These are magnets here, and they pretty dusty and dirty, and they could use a good cleanup. All that could use a good cleanup and to be blown out good. I think I'll do that and then put it right back on there. Now when you put this back on, there's a key right here. It's got to fit a knot. It's right in there. So yeah, I'll pump up my air compressor, we'll blow that off, put it back on there, and then think about it some more. It seems to have good fire now, and I think what I'm going to do is put the plug back in there and concentrate on the gas flow. I'll let you watch the spark plug. That looks good to me. So, it's raining. I don't know if I got some gas here or not. I might have to go back to the back barn to get some, and I don't want to do it in the rain, so I might. And I don't have starter fluid in here that I can see. I usually like to keep a little jar of gas, just enough to splash in there, but I don't see any. So for sake, might be a good time to quit and come back to this tomorrow. Okay. Much. Oh, there it is. That looks good to me.